And we're recording, and I'm singing song, and everybody's going to hear it, and they're going to laugh. Da, 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 da. PrimalAcademy.ca. This is my gym. Come over there for our live sessions, virtual sessions. If you want to buy some Toronto versus COVID-19 t-shirts, go to primalshop.ca. Also have Primal versus COVID-19 t-shirts over there. It's all good. And now we're live with you. How's it going?
Awesome.
Same.
That's awesome, brother.
So
it's good to see you, man.
During these stupid days. I hate them.
Well, that's good, man. I mean, obviously, when we moved from Ontario, we obviously set ourselves up pretty good for the next chapter. So nothing really changed for us.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of stuff, as you saw, mobile. And so it didn't really affect us, but obviously I'm watching owners and the students and just the community. Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't think people would have predicted something like this. And if anything, it's incredible to see. It's very transparent, this moment. You get to see people, get to see what they're really, obviously jiu-jitsu is their life, and beyond that.
Yeah.
Is there anything beyond that? Is there anything beyond what others through jiu-jitsu, brothers and sisters, but what else is going on? You know what I mean?
Well, you are absolutely right. And I've seen few surprises with my students. During these days. And it's like really showing, not only few, to be honest. Like, I'm just thinking about that. I'm thinking out loud, like, was I really disappointed in some? I'm like, when it happened, maybe I was a bit upset, like I was surprised. But then later I'm like, nah, it happens, Some people canceled. And like surprised.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'm like, really? You?
Yeah.
And then it's like very bad taste in the mouth. This kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I look at both sides of it. I mean, when or what they perceive as stress. Stress is often self-induced. What doing is impulsively. Later they come back when things pass. Because really, honestly, even 6 months to a year in your whole life isn't really that long of time you can't get back, but this will pass and we'll be back to normal. But what it does is it shows, you're right, it shows people's true colors, but also shows how some people deal with stress, how people deal with adversity. And I mean, it's a legit reason to be a little concerned. And I couldn't imagine like having a job where we're talking about gym owners, but having a job where you lose your entire business. Or absolutely, that's a serious concern. So when people are joking about the virus and that, I get it. It's a time, our country and the whole world's been through these kind of things before. But this is, I think, because we were comfortable, and to be honest, we don't suffer. We're very comfortable in society, and it's in a weird way, it's a good thing, because it lets us appreciate what we have, focus on other priorities like our families and our health and other things, and then you just move on from here. Hopefully, we learn from it.
I bet we'll learn from it. Everyone learns from it, and like for me, like you just said it. It's like you're really learning about some people in a stress environment. I consider myself, I'm very good with stress. Like, stress fires me up. Like,
what do you find? I noticed that with you. You're always very chill. You have this sarcasm in a lot of your comments. I love it. People don't get it, but I'm like laughing in the background. This crazy KrazyRussian guy is just playing. But what would you associate your your life, I guess your experiences that make you handle stress
Me growing up in
more in Russia.
mobster and gang environment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
I've said it like Nick Castaglia was on my first podcast, and I opened it up because he asked me all these questions, and I opened it up. It's like I told those stories, and yeah, me growing up with very bad people around me, and having guns
Yeah,
to my face, and being, dragged into the woods with with barbed wire around your neck. You know what?
yeah,
This it's not barbed
yeah,
wire around your neck and a gun in front of your face. It's
yeah,
and that happened when I was a teenager, like 18, 19, when was it? Like 18, 19, I think, something like that. So
yeah,
you know what? Yes, you're young those days, very young, but
yeah.
dude, it stays with you forever. It stays with you.
Yes.
I remember days. You probably seen, and when you were young, some propaganda news when we stood in line for toilet paper, or absolutely empty shelves in the stores. And that happened
Yeah,
91, 92. And it's
yeah,
been there. And I was there. I was like, I remember. So what we see now, oh my God, you have to stand in line 2 meters apart to get inside the store. And people are complaining about it. And I'm like, uh, yeah, I'm going
yeah,
to kick your fucking balls, man. It's like, shut up. You know, or even my
yeah. I mean,
son, he's whining about shit that, like, dude, you have a room of toys. Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry, you have 2 rooms of toys, one at the cottage, one here. I
yeah,
had two. One I made myself,
yeah,
and one passed from my older brother, half broken.
yeah.
I'm exaggerating. I'm
I get
you
it
know what
for
I mean.
sure.
It's a different
But
story.
what you're saying, it's amazing because it's kind of like it's hard to explain to people, because what you see on surface is different than what's the reality. Often, like you watch movies, you're like, is that how it is in the real world? And I say this a lot to my friends, like for military guys, they relate to that. Is the military guys often that you see that speak the loudest, they usually don't do much. They're like they're doing something minute or not very, I guess, commando-ish. It's a job needed, and they're very good at that job. But these guys that are speaking very aggressively and loud about how tough they are, they haven't done anything. And I have tons of experiences or stories of that. But one thing I notice is you would come back from something challenging, difficult, maybe stressful, like an operation. You'd come home, and then you would watch people complaining about, like you said, not enough milk in their coffee, or they got to
Yeah,
line up or
yeah.
follow a rule, and it equates to that relation. Like a guy comes home and he doesn't understand why people are so spoiled or how good they have it. They don't appreciate it. And I think right now we're starting to see that people. You have two realms. You have people that kind of they're suffering, and it's stressful, and they're kind of like closing in, and it's extremely hard on them mentally. And I get that. And we always say, if you have honest problems, like, we're not making, like, we're going to help you guys in the community, because not everyone, especially the guys, don't want to talk about their stressing. And if it's something concerning, great, we'll help. But what I find is, if you don't suffer, or if you haven't experienced, which is kind of twisted, but if you haven't suffered, life
I
is
don't think
actually.
it's twisted. I don't think it's twisted at all.
But that's the fact, and that's what we always teach in our group. We're like, if you work really, really hard at something, or you suffer, you go outside your comfort zone, or life has dealt you some pretty nasty cards, chances are you're going to deal with adversity and stress a little bit easier than someone that kind of gets catered through life. And no one's better than others. It's just, I find, when you look at those like-minded individuals, the people that do well. Look at the athletes we follow;
Mm-hmm.
they all have a story.
Yep.
No one's naturally amazing. Like, and those guys at the highest level, because that's the difference maker. It's those guys, like that saying, like, you work hard and you get
Yeah.
those results.
No, you're
It's
right on the point. Again, don't take me the wrong way. Stress gets to everyone.
yeah,
It gets to me as well, and it's like
absolutely,
what we see on Facebook. people type. A lot of people type and put stuff just to make them appear happy, just to make them appear stress-free. I get stressed out too, but it needs to be something major for myself, to be honest. It's because again, we just said it. This will pass.
Yeah.
This will pass. This is fucking nothing. This is fucking flu. Okay, very serious, very contagious, very motherfucker flu, and it's. I don't know.
Like
It'll go away. But you know what else? You know what else? Like sport helped me in my life. Sport saved my life. I mean, like I said in previous podcast, sport has been in my life all my life throughout.
And you did beyond jiu-jitsu, obviously.
I did major ones. I did swimming, and I did Olympic canoeing, Olympic rowing.
Oh, nice.
So that was national team level.
Yeah.
And the rest of it, I boxed, I did sambo, not much, again, nothing official. Judo, sambo, boxing. Boxing was quite a bit. And then career in Canada, and then jiu-jitsu happened. And jiu-jitsu helps so much. It's just going through jiu-jitsu formulas in your head, going through those puzzle-solving situations while you're rolling with somebody, or you get your ass handed to you. You know what? One of my favorite things is to get my ass handed to myself.
Oh yeah, man!
I'm like, the best fucking experience ever. A lot of people get upset. A lot of people egos come up. For me, it's absolutely opposite. And it's not. I'm not blowing smoke. It's true story. Like for me, if somebody beats me, especially these days, I don't care if you're 20-year-old to 25-year-old comparing to me, 48. It's doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how young you are. You beat me, it excites me. It excites me. Like I want to go more and more and more and more and more. And this adversity stuff, you got to go through this, man. That's it.
I noticed that with you and a lot of the guys that I guess like there's a big group of us, like the older guys. Older, I'm not old. I'm like, you're 48, I'm 45. Like, but the thing is that why are we still competing? We're all broken. We're healing our bodies as best we can. You know what it is that humility and that the truth. Like going in there and testing yourself, learning really quickly what you have to work on. There's always going to be someone better. Maybe they picked a better strategy that day. I think it keeps us going. I mean, we've all taken breaks or life throws something at you or an injury. But the best thing about it, I find, is that, it just gives you a quick answer. I tell a lot of the students, like, it's homework. You just basically go back and you work at it. What I was doing, though, is I was trying to stay on the same rhythm as like these phenoms in Ontario, like they compete every month. And one, financially, unless you're getting sponsored and assisted, like that was pretty hard with a family. So I started doing it a little bit different, where I would like do, let's say, every 3-4 months and actually improve on something, work on it, and focus more not on the accolades or the results. Go in a good, fair competition where I had more than just 3 people in the division, and if I could get a good size, I'm prouder than some of my 3rd place and 2nd place finishes than golds. And it was because, like you just said, it's just some of the things you get caught in. There's a guy down in Boston, really good guy, and I faced him in my division, then the absolute, and I lost. I got silver, and I basically had him in this choke. It was like, it's my thing. I'm choking these guys. I felt confident. He felt it, the veins popping on his head. He doesn't tap. It ends, and I lose on points. And I was upset at first, and I was like, that's the best thing, because that's exactly what in jiu-jitsu, absolutely. It's often as we go for the submission, and I started to change. I started to say, like, what is the whole goal? Am I trying to win, or am I trying to submit him? I have to make a decision. Am I happier getting the submission and losing if I don't get it, or do I want to win? Like, do I want to win gold? I hadn't questioned myself with that. I hadn't been honest. I was just following what everyone else was doing. Just compete a lot, win, do well. But like I said, like some of those silver medals, I was hunting those submissions, and I did very well. I was pulling things off, and I lost by 2 points or an advantage in the finals. I'm good with that, because my performance in that entire venue was very good. Whereas other tournaments where I was trying to win, I did. You win, but you really didn't do anything. Like I take the guy down, hold him, pass, get my points, and I win. Great,
I've had
awesome.
those feelings too. I've had some wins. 2018 when I came back to serious competition, right? And it's there were some wins when I won. I'm like, that was bullshit. I'm like,
Yeah.
that was too easy. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then, of course, my students, teammates, like everyone's like, Egor, yeah, bro, awesome, bro. And me, I'm like, yeah, thank you, yeah, I won. Okay, cool. But then I go to a hotel, or just immediately after the match, I'm like, that was bullshit. That was nothing. That was so easy.
Yeah.
There were wins when I had to really fight, but most of my wins, if I won, as soon as I start dominating, it gets too easy for me. At least it's my experience. I'm not a Superman. I'm not Gordon Ryan or anything like this. But it was just, and I took losses, many losses. There were quite a few. Third were losses, and those ones that really sparked me up. And I really analyzed it, and I was so okay. I lost it, but I did this, I did that, and I did this, and this is where I suck. It was like literally like that. Yeah, it's like I understood the speed, I understood the age, I understood that I'm too small for my division. Like Pan Am's, when the guy I fought in semifinals, he got a first place at the end. I took him down. He just got up. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I took him down cleanly on his back, and I was on top, and he just got up. I'm like, okay, I'm strong, but you're not from this planet. He was like former NFL guy. He did Ultimate Fighter, heavyweight. Yeah. Like the guy was dope. Like, it was a good match, and he dislocated my collarbone. So it was good.
Damn.
That was fun.
Yeah, but I mean, man, so it's all good. I mean, the biggest thing is just those challenges, like we said, like doing these little life challenges, I guess it would be. Anytime you do something like that, it just keeps you. I think I use the word relevant. It's that no one really cares what you did before, and to be honest, it's good. You should be proud of accomplishments and things, and I relate that to like my military career. Like, you can do a lot of cool stuff, but how can you apply it today? And be proud of those things, but really no one cares. It's like, who are you today? What are you doing? Like, you reached the black belt. Like, are you a good guy? Are you helping other people? Are you good at teaching? And it's huge. Like, your students look at you. The reason they're excited is you're leading by example. A lot of people don't do that, and that's the difference. Like, you've already won right there.
50% of the reason why I compete are my students.
Absolutely.
50% is for me. 50% is just to show guys it's fun. It's an amazing experience. You learn a lot about your skill and about yourself. This is what we teach in jiu-jitsu. Better yourself. Better yourself. Okay, how do I better myself? Doing shrimps for 6 months and I still don't know how to do front roll?
Yeah.
A lot of people get confused, but I've always said every single person I convince to go compete, I've never heard once from any person coming back from competition, even if they lost, they said something negative about it. They're like, it was awesome. Some of them come back, some of them don't come back to compete again, but I've never heard negative comment, ever.
Yeah, it's very honest. The experience of shaking hands with a stranger. Back in the day, we didn't have jiu-jitsu. It was like wrestling. So going to a wrestling meets, the intensity, or sambo. I did sambo with Egor when he came to Canada, Yakimov, and what's that? Yeah, in Ottawa. He was above that gym, and it was like an old garage. Yeah, crazy dude, man. He's hilarious.
I learned leg locks, a lot of leg locks from him.
Yeah, man, he was third in ADCC. That guy. People don't realize. Like, no, it was a good experience, but until I did that, I had really. The more you do, the more experienced you become. I mean, you and I will be the first ones to say there's guys at the world level. I mean, they do this as a living full time. They've started young, and it's amazing. Good to see the sport evolving. But what I really look at these days is a lot more about that functionality. Like, can you take someone that, like, people are good. So you're good at jiu-jitsu, but like, can people take a person that is new and make them functional, not just for sport? Maybe, let's say, there's a huge arena to test yourself through sport jiu-jitsu in a safe environment. You're not getting punched in the face. It's great. You can do that like us till we're older. But it's the effectiveness and the functional element, which I believe 100%, and I'll go on record to say this, that we're not doing a good job in the community for self-defense. And the reason I say that is that 90% of the self-defense that you see in jiu-jitsu is actually not functional for one reason, is that self-defense is great, but the problem is, like, even if we go into depth of how it all started, when it was implemented with the Gracie family, I love the Gracie, like Henzo's my guy, like I'm under those guys, like jiu-jitsu is awesome. But as soon as we start dealing with like some realities, and I've been in those situations, like real life conflict with a weapon, a blade, it becomes a totally different, avenue or a different arena.
Hold my beer. Hold on.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because I'm going to get a beer, and I'm going to ask you some questions about this.
For sure, man.
Okay, so listen, we're going to get to self-defense. You started it, but first, let me ask and let me introduce to whoever's going to listen to this. Like, what's your background? Like, where are you from? And it's like, what's your military? Because I know your credentials. A lot of people don't. You're U.S. Ranger, you're paratrooper, you're Canadian guy, and like I introduced you as a Canadian dude. You are a fucking Canadian dude. Like, there's the guy was on a Joe Rogan podcast. He does those little snippets on Instagram. He's like, real dude stuff. This is like, to me, you are a real dude. Military guy whom, I respect military, I respect cops, I respect all those guys hugely. Like, the amount of respect I have for military is like I should have been in the military myself, but I'm too fucking pussy to go into the military and to serve. And for me, it's like, fuck this shit. Sitting, in this room with a bunch of people, no, like I like my couch and my big TV, But the amount of respect I have is gigantic. So, like, just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I joined right out of high school. I grew up in Ottawa. I was in Montreal and Ottawa. I got a bit of that accent. I speak French. But basically, I grew up in Ottawa, had all English friends, and I spoke French at home. Joined the military straight out of high school. I was in Army cadets when I was young, so I was already part of that. My dad was a pilot. He made one mistake. He basically took me up in this Hercules aircraft. It's one of the aircrafts we have, CC-130. He took me up there and got me dressed up, and he hooked me up on the ramp and said, like, hey, take a look. So I went up, and at that time, that day, there was a bunch of paratroopers jumping out of the plane, and they were flying the plane. So he thought he was going to convince me on becoming a pilot. And I'm sitting on this ramp watching these guys go out the door, and I'm hooked up with this monkey harness, and this big, like, for me as a kid, I look at this big guy, big paratrooper. He looks down at me, winks, and then he jumps out of the plane. And I was like, I'm going to be that guy. Like, this is like a superhero to me. So I'm like, I started finding out. I'm researching at school. I'm like, who are these guys in the airborne? Like, what do these guys do? So I remember writing a letter to these dudes saying, like, man, I'm a big fan. I'm like a kid in high school. I'm like, can you send me a picture of you guys doing training? So I remember they sent me and my buddy a letter saying, thanks, like, you're weird. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but cool. And it was like a guy changing a garbage can or something with his commando smock and his airborne beret. And I was like, man, that is awesome. Look at this. Anyways, long story short, we went, and a bunch of my friends and I, we were convinced we were going to sign up and join everything and do everything. So we signed up. And 21 years later, I basically did what I said I was going to do. I said in the first month in the Army, after I did basic training, which most people do, it's pretty easy. You go through that and then you go to your units. Well, the infantry guys, they go to the infantry basic training, which is even longer and it's intensive. And once you go through that, then you can advance and go into more, I guess, elite groups. Anyways, my sergeant's like, hey, he was in Recce platoon, which is a reconnaissance group where snipers are and that. And he's like, what are you going to be there, Major? Like, what do you want to be? I said, I'm going to be a Pathfinder, Ranger, Sniper. And he started laughing at me. He's like, whoa, easy there, Tiger. He's like, how about if you just like start with something simple first? So fast forward to today, I did it. I accomplished those things. And what I learned through it, it wasn't about doing those challenges that are very hard. So for people who are listening that don't know, in Canada, we don't really celebrate our soldiers because we're fairly humble. And a real quick story is we're down in the States training with the Americans, and the Americans are running like 1, 2, 3, 4, like they're just doing their chant. And all of a sudden you look over and us Canadians are just shuffling.
Why is that? Why is that?
It's just it's more of a there's comparisons. Some things very good, some things different. I love Canada. I love the uniqueness that we have. Hardworking individuals. Back in the day, it was like farmers, hunters, like people were just everyday walk of life. But there's less of that bravado. Our uniforms for a time weren't showing the accolades. Everything was just do your job. And some of the best soldiers in the world are Canadians. Like for example, our snipers and our special operations are probably the best in the world.
Nobody fucking knows this stuff.
Nobody knows that because we don't brag or talk about it.
Why not?
The biggest.
That's my fucking point. Why not? Everybody brags about themselves, and in some cases, I think it's very good. It's good to be humble. We're Canadians, yes, and it's like it just sends the message. I don't know, to many people.
I'll give you a story. Like the hardest thing for us, because we're brought up like that. It's not cool to be that guy bragging in that. So here's an example. Right. Yeah. I went down to do like U.S. Army Ranger School. I was already a Pathfinder and a sniper, a parachute instructor, which is not easy.
I've always wanted to know who is Pathfinder.
Okay, so a Pathfinder is basically like a U.S. Army Ranger. They do raids, ambushes, assaults. There's all kinds of missions you get put into. You have a specific role, and they support groups like Delta. They have different mandates and mission sets. The Canadian Pathfinders, they were basically, I would say, a little bit more independent. So rather than be part of a 30 or 45 man patrol, or small groups, if you're an R&D unit in the States, as a Pathfinder, you would go in with 36 guys, part of a group that would insert prior to the follow-on force. And then you would break up into teams of 1 or 2, and you would take off and basically have tasks that were extremely difficult because you have your gear on your bag for a week. You're on your own. You're self-reliant. And essentially these guys would jump or insert into an area before the paratroopers or the airborne unit or any other unit.
So they would finding paths for the rest.
Yes, you basically get into a spot and then you set up a beachhead, maybe a rugged terrain area like mountain operations. You would recce, let's say, an objective and have a look at the enemy. And then you would go back to the drop zone, set up a drop zone or landing zone, bring in the soldiers, and then lead them to the objective and tell them, here's the lay of the land, go ahead, have fun, do your job. And then they would take off and go set up an extraction or set up another mission. So imagine these guys are on their own in the middle of nowhere doing all these mission sets. So it's a lot of self-individual skills, lots of advanced first aid. You had to navigate in the woods in the middle of nowhere and carry a lot of gear, like 100 pounds on your back. So the attrition rate was high. Like we had, let's say you start with 36 guys, you might finish with 4 to 10 people that pass the course. Sniper course, we call like just sniper course. We have 3 tiers. We have sniper course, which is the detachment commander, and then we have like our master sniper group. And those guys, we would basically start same thing, 24 guys and finish with 1. Some courses 2, 3, 4 guys. My course, I think we had 4 or 5 guys. And the reason is because we're big on skill set, but also on that performance scale, there's no Pathfinders that go down and do U.S. Army Ranger School that fail. Whereas we've had rangers that come up, they're like, you guys are crazy. And why? There's no real difference. I've done them both. One of them has like, Ranger School, you got some good like gut checks. You're doing some long walks, whatever. You're more deprived on sleep and stuff like that. Pathfinder is just as difficult, but the elements is what kills people. So we have like rough terrain, We have rough elements. So you're out in the
where
fall.
Where is the training happening? Like in this?
Normally all across Canada. So it could be on the East Coast when we do the amphibious phase, or out in the West Coast. Petawawa, you could be jumping in. Trenton, you just jump into one area to the next to the next. It's awesome, man. Like, and what I look at, I'm still involved with the community. I help the guys out prepare for the courses. What I like about it is that it's the type of people that have that character that you can rely on. You tell the guy, I need you to be at this place at this time to do this, to light, let's say, a panel marker or a fuse, to guide an aircraft to drop troops, and they'll do it. And that's basically the test, is basically under any conditions at any time doing any of those tasks. And the training's intense and it's pretty cool. But I'm proud of Canadians for that. The only problem is that might be, I'm exaggerating, 10% of our military. In many of the groups, in all of the arms, there's Army, Air Force, and Navy. There's really good specialized individuals, but our military is weak. It's soft. It's a reflection of society, so it's political. But at the end of the day, man, like I just focus on the positive, and I've learned that even having my own academy, we got into like affiliations and this guy training here and there. Like, I went back to my roots and just focus on like who I am, what I've done, what I've accomplished. Be proud of that. Use those lessons to hopefully inspire other people and help them achieve their goals, whether that's whatever they're doing, right?
My point was, you just made the point of it's soft. This is perception of the Canadian military. It's soft. You're looking at World War I, 100 years ago, huge numbers were in that war. Smaller numbers in the Second World War. The beach, assault, Normandy, the worst beach got I think Canadians got the worst beach, part of the beach. Yeah. And now it's so small. And it's like, when, who approved those 18 jets? Trudeau? No, not Trudeau. Remember a few years ago we bought jets. Harper, right.
Harper, yeah.
And I was like, I'm looking at it, it's like, oh my God, we got 18 jets. I'm like, we're G7 country. We shouldn't be even talking about this. It's like, 18? How about 28? How about 48? How about 108? And this is what the perception is like about military. And I've known quite a few military boys. And I taught at Borden, too. Borden, right? Yeah. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu. I spoke to quite a few air guys over there. And it strikes the thought of, like, what is this? Is it military, or it's just, you just, here, it's your job, and we have to have military, but you don't really do anything military. And then this is my point about you. We're not bragging. We're not this. Why not? Everything, like, if it was me, like, brand person, I would brag the fuck out of this. Like, this is who I am. Our snipers are the fucking best. Fuck you, you fucking US. I shoot better than you. My special forces guys, or whatever, special units guys, they're better than you. Oh, no, you're not? Okay, let's have a competition. You and me, and we're going to the woods and we shoot, I don't know, fucking deers. How many did you shoot? 7. I said I did 17. Stupid stuff like this. But again, I'm talking from, I'm talking bullshit. But I understand that. It's much more. It's much bigger picture. It's more political. It's all that stuff.
Like, I will even say though that even we can't start being like egomaniacs and say like, the clerk in the corner or the cook is soft. Like, there's people like, for example, in the military that eventually they go into some of these units. There's extremely fit military individuals, driven. You know a few that are military that train jiu-jitsu. So that's not the point. The point is overall, I've trained with a lot of militaries across the world. It's a representation of the culture. Like a Russian soldier might not be as skilled as, let's say, one of our operators or special operations, but they're tough as nails. Whereas when I was training, like let's say with some of the Brits, some units in the Brits are like useless, but then others are unbelievable. Like I've trained with SAS guys, SBS, some other units, like is incredible. But you can't label it off units, but what you can do is look at the overall culture. I find because our society has gone so much one way, there's a lot of issues that's happening is because we're so scared to offend people and be, I guess, unprofessional, which is good. It's good to implement some regulations, not be a douchebag and be a bully and call people F word all the time. But if I'm telling you, get on the truck, and I happen to say, get on the fucking truck because there's a sense of urgency, that shouldn't even be a conversation to charge the person or reprimand them. It should be like, yeah, there was an urgency. People are shooting at you. Get on the fucking truck.
Are you speaking about some example?
There are many examples like that. No, I'm lucky. I've been able to explain things well to people of why things work. But at the same time, like I've seen people get in trouble, get reprimanded for something. Yeah, it's brutal. And I think we focus too much on that side, that element. You could walk into a room having an amazing day, and it's a culture. And anyone who wants to argue it, I'll show them really quickly, and they know it, is that you could walk in the room, and after 6-8 years in the military, it's not a matter of if, it's when your life kind of starts changing. You get your energy and joie de vivre gets sucked out. You're no longer as eager to take BS. And you could walk in that room and you're happy and someone will look at you and it's a culture and they'll be like, why is he so friggin' happy? It's like, hey, look down, your boots are undone. You know, they just it's just always getting stabbed with some sort of reminder that you're not that good. So I think because that culture is made that way, we are known to have two things. We're like a jealous army, and secondly is we, rather than focus on the positive and realize how great our soldiers are, how good they can be, is because of our, let's say, our limitations or insecurities, we don't allow to take those kids, those young guys, like in jiu-jitsu, give them wings to fly. Like, give them, if you're that good, teach them what you can, make them better than you. And I was lucky because I had great soldiers. They all listened to me, but I treated them well. I basically would show them. They're like, okay, this dude's going to do everything. When we would jump, I would be the first guy jumping. I'd show them how to do it. We got to jump at night in the rain. It's scary. Let's go. Follow me. And we're missing a bit of that, I find. And like I said, there's that 10% that's doing a really good job, and they're stepping above. We have our search and rescue is the best in the world. We've got like our special operations, our snipers, guaranteed. I would put my money on it. They can hold their own against anyone. I've seen it. I've been part of it. I've worked with these groups, and it's amazing. So I'm proud of that, and I don't take anything away from the person that has to write a check. Like there's a need for everyone in our organization or in the organization, the military, the government. But I do find as a culture, they could benefit from making it a little bit harder, period. Okay. That's it.
I get it.
For the culture.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, for the culture. So I interrupted you you were talking about U.S. Rangers.
Yeah.
You were going, you were already Pathfinder and you were doing U.S. Ranger thing.
Yeah, I went down there and I found it. I can't say, oh, it was easy, but most Canadians that go down there, they do very well. So they top it. So for what that means is you get top of your class. So when I went down, we started with 285 guys and we finished with 42 originals from day one. And out of that class of 285, when I went down in my class, I didn't fail any of the phases because as Canadians, they don't have.
Is it like similar to Hell Week for Navy SEALs
So
or?
I won't compare it to that, but basically you'll do phases. You'll do 1 week, 1 month. Basically, you'll do a 2 to 3 month course, and each let's say 3 weeks to 4 weeks, you're doing one area. So you're doing like your jungle, the desert, the amphibious. Like you're doing different phases, right?
Okay, yeah,
So there's four.
what I meant by Hell Week, I'm talking about. We all know what Hell Week is, right? But
Yeah,
it's what I'm saying is it's a similar trip. Forget about Hell Week. You passed that part, right? And then you go into more and more training. Is it similar to that? Because they also train. They don't train for a week. They train like for 2 months, as far as I know.
Yeah. The Ranger schools, like I forget. It's like 56 days straight.
Yeah, so 2 months.
You get a 10-minute phone call like every 30 days to like call your family. That's it. And you basically you give you one meal a day. They starve you and they just deprive you of sleep.
I'm too pushy for that. Screw this, man.
And they just grind you. And I think it's not that hard. Like if you're already built to do that or you have the mindset, I tell people like just go for it. You don't know. You could surprise yourself. You know, the big bravado guy, you look at him, you're like, man, he's gonna kick ass.
And
he drops out the first
like this. Yeah.
So I just say just hold your weight and just do it. Like who cares? Go nuts. Like just try whatever. You don't know. So you'll kick yourself in your sleep if you quit on yourself with anything in life. And you're like, man, what if I would have just stuck it out another 5 minutes?
That's a lesson to everyone. It's all to all the young guys.
Just like the guy's got 5 minutes in a match, or not even a minute in the match. You see it. The guy gives up on himself. Then he regrets it. He might not ever compete again because he knows the truth. He gave up on himself. So I believe like people can beat me. You can choke me, tap me, armbar me, play the rules of the game. You're never going to beat me as a human. Guaranteed. Like you can do whatever you want. I'd rather die than quit. And I think that's the type of mentality. Yeah, absolutely. So
I really don't.
You shouldn't. And I think that's what gives the difference with like Ranger. It's just a course, and then beyond that, like it's the operation. If bullets are flying past you, that's when you see the difference.
That's a different story. That's you guys, and I'm talking about small percentage of you. I'm talking about you military guys really know the action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've met few in my life coming back. When I was young, I met a lot of guys coming back from Afghanistan. Russian-Afghani war.
Yeah. Brutal. And people are excited because of media and movies and that, and I support that. I think it's good to inspire young lads, but it's ugly. It's not something I wish on anyone, and the effects, like years later, you wake up thinking, like I'm waking up thinking of things I saw when I was like years ago, and I shouldn't be thinking of those things. It shouldn't be disrupting my. And what I use those experiences for is appreciating what I have in this chapter in my life. I try to inspire others to see is that no matter, we're all on the same planet, same world, we all have the same goals, some different. The biggest thing is if you are a coward or a piece of whatever that kind of preys on weak people to take advantage of that I live my life to fight against that, because I believe there are people that can't defend themselves and fight for themselves. There's people right now that are stuck in a situation where because of this COVID, where they can't really fight their bully. The idea behind it is the reason we do all this. The reason I joined the Army was to really be that person that can help someone that can't help themselves. And how can you do that if you're not keeping yourself honest? And I found just because you do all kinds of stuff doesn't mean you're effective right now today. So I push myself even harder than when I was younger to maintain a standard. Eventually I'm going to be 80 years old. I'm going to like beat the shit people with my cane. Like the point is that you're not going to get fitter and younger, but you got to be willing to find a way to just keep that spirit in you, to fight till the end. That's important,
It's
right?
very hard to. For many people, it's very hard to believe in that stuff. And we're, like you just mentioned earlier about uh, memories and the war stays with you. And again, I've never been in those situations. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it feels like. You can hear a bunch of fucking couch warriors on Facebook. Oh, why do we need this? Why do we go to war? Nah, I don't know. I don't understand hand to hand of this, right? But what military does is, I think it's a very very important thing they do. Like you go to
Yeah.
hot places, and you listen to a bunch of really true action people that've been in real action. You start getting it. I think it's a matter of education as well for younger people, for young, like you said, young lads. It's a matter of education that when if they don't hear anything about it, if they don't hear from real people that've been in action, and they don't hear stories about it, because listen, nobody reads books these days. I grew up reading books. I didn't read
Yeah.
many. I'm not saying I was reading, but because I was in sports, we were always in camps, sport camps, and
Yeah.
you have chess and you have books. That's it. And your coach says, no, you're not going out. You're staying in your room and you're chilling because you have another 3 practices tomorrow, right? So we've been
Yeah.
reading a lot, and right now nobody reads.
Well, the different, like I'll interject, like they're reading, but the danger or the risk is that, remember I talked about
Mm.
relevance, is that they're reading books that are getting marketed that are really cool, really good, and it's a perception. Let's say a Navy SEAL writes a book, and you're like, holy shit, that's a cool story. It must be amazing, or it must be true, or it must be he's the gospel because he's a Navy SEAL. Or I'm using a
Exactly.
poor example, but I'm using a poor example. No, he's a great dude. I'm just using an example that there are many guys that they use their
Mm.
accolades,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and what people don't see is that when you're there doing something, it can be through training, through operation, domestically or internationally, it can be contract work. I've experienced all of those three elements, and what people don't talk about is the honesty, because that's not cool to be honest, right? You got to embellish and make it all cool. Like I was the best guy, kill everyone. That's this war. The truth is, war is ugly. You shouldn't go to war. If we could hug each other, it'd be great. That's not how you fight wars. You got to fight fire with fire. So if you want people to be good at that and violent, then you can't dictate how they're going to train or become like that. So when you these guys are reading books, or you're inspiring these young guys to learn about that culture, the issue is that we're only seeing one side of the story that guy explained, or the guy that wants to share it. There's people I know, if they could share the story, I've lost friends. Like there's some guys I look up to, like they're no longer with us. They were the best soldiers I've ever trained and worked with. I have a friend right now. He's in Sudbury, Ontario. You can look him up. His name's Steve Daniel. He was a pathfinder we trained. He went to the Olympics in Beijing doing the rowing, you were talking about doing rowing or whatever. I forget the event, but he did some rowing in Beijing, and this guy is in a wheelchair now, paralyzed from. He basically, instead of feeling sorry for himself, he's now a doctor. Got some contraption where he could stand to do some of the portions of the, the test for the surgery stuff, and he basically went in there.
I found him.
Make it look at that. He's the best, but I think he's an amazing human. And the thing is you don't hear the story, and that's why when people aren't reading, but when they are reading, everything, right? It's the way our world is, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're entitled to make your troopers jump out of the plane. And I thought if I would have picked a job that gave me a better career when I got out of the army, but whatever. I'm stubborn and dumb. It's all
Yeah,
good.
but you're wrong about this. If I was smarter,
I would never trade that. I love it.
you exactly that. You chose what You chose a great thing. It's that was,
I wouldn't be one.
Yeah, if I was smart, I would have been a lawyer.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit, man. Or I would have been a doctor. Doctor is great, but hey, here's my arm.
Yeah.
It doesn't go straight. Here's the doctor, did my surgery. Now I have to recover for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
How's that doing, man? How's that feeling?
Not good, man. Fucking sucks. This is my straight arm.
Wow. Yeah.
A straight arm, it's tiny little noodle now because I can't work it out.
Did it rip the bicep or the tricep?
Tricep. Completely torn. All three muscles were tendons all went up.
I remember that. Yeah.
And he reconnected them. Everything's fine. Like there is no hole. They're still connected. It's still warm. But the problem is most of the time people have problems bending their arm. I have no problem bending the arm. I have a huge problem straightening. This is my straight arm, right? And excuses on their side are unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's nobody wants to take responsibility that they fucked up.
No, it's
of course
brutal.
Not. It's like, you know, if you say, "Oh yeah, I fucked up," lawsuit, boom, like this, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll get tons of money for it, and I'll be happy. But now they're prescribing me JAS splint or JAS, whatever it's called, JAS, Joint Active System, something like this. What it is, it's a contraption that goes here, here. You turn a knob, it straightens your arm. It's practically a plastic thing that makes an arm bar real. You know? And it's like, okay, get comfortable, do more. But it's like big pharma thing. That little plastic thing costs $9,000.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, everybody's looking in, like watching or listening. JAS splint or JAS brace. Take a look. Stupid little fucking plastic piece of shit. Costs $9,000. Maybe it's not plastic, by the way. I don't know. I've never held it in my hands, but it looks plastic. And rental is $900 a month.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I don't know. My insurance company didn't come back to me yet if they cover it or not. So if they don't cover it, my father-in-law wooden board, some kind of freaking bolts and nails in here, and some kind of medieval torture device. We're going to crank it with a handle here. Hey, I have a lot of, cranking mechanisms at the cottage for boats. So I'm thinking like the fucking thing is going to open my arm.
Arm bar yourself, man.
Oh, dude, nobody's going to arm bar me ever. I'll never tap to any arm bar after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, here, go for it. I'm so used to this, man. Hey, I used to do this 30 minutes 3 times a day. Go for it.
So, you almost give that's awesome, man. Well, it's tough, man. Would you say that the hardest part, would you agree? Because you got people listening here, some really competitive athletes. You have people who are just starting jiu-jitsu and, they jump into it. Maybe they have an injury. Would you say that you'd agree that's probably the hardest thing to deal with for one of your students is not being able to train or dealing with that injury, not rushing back into it?
For me, yes.
Yeah, for you, yeah.
Because, well, I have to put a teacher head, and then I have to take it off and be me.
Yeah.
With having a teacher baseball on my head, I have to say, be smart, go what your physiotherapist says, go through that, make sure you recover properly, and in most cases it's true.
Yeah. In
some cases it's bullshit because it's a very commercial and money-making business.
Yeah.
So when they tell me, take this JAS, here's an example to answer your question. Take the JAS thing, and on the phone, because I do sales myself for the gym, I can hear she's fucking selling me shit. She's like, and we usually prescribe it for 3 to 4 months. And I'm thinking, I can kill my arm in a month, no problem. It'll be straight hyperextended, no problem. If you give me that thing, I need it for a month. Every day, you say 30 minutes, 3 times a day, I'll do 4 times 1 hour each. No problem. I'll do that. I'll be walking. I'll have my beer. My pain threshold is going to be much bigger than an average person. We will already withstand pain 10 times better than an average person because of our sports, because of your background and your sport. My sport, well, our sport, right? They don't know who they're dealing with. Give me that fucking thing and open it up, right? So, I don't know. My coach hat will be like, yeah, go through this, but don't listen 100% to those people.
Yeah.
See how it works for you, but don't be stupid. What I always say to all my youngsters, and I have 20-year-olds, and there's particular names pop up in my head right away. Guy gets injured, serious dislocation of finger, let's say. Like you and I would be out for 6 months.
Yeah.
The guy comes back 2 weeks later. I'm like, what are you doing here? Oh, it's okay, I'll tape it. I'm like, yeah, you can tape it. You can create a rock. You can, yeah, absolutely. But you're still gonna hurt all the tendons that are attached to here. Like, take a pause. Go upstairs. We have fitness upstairs and martial arts downstairs. Go upstairs, get on a bike, do something, but don't touch your thumb yet.
Yeah.
Things like this. Ankle lock, boom. He's hardly walking at the end of the class. His ankle is this size, like fucking watermelon over there, all swelled up. Comes back 2 days later. I'm fine, I'll tape it. I'm like, no, you're not. You're standing on your feet. We're doing stand-up today. You're not going to be training. No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And this is what the thing is. This is frustrating part about learn from our mistakes. Learn from me, Marco, Monkey. Learn from people that have no joints anymore and struggling every single fucking full moon comes in. We're all, my joint hurts. Learn from us. No, it seems like it's the thing, the pattern repeats itself. It doesn't really matter what you say. If a person really hardcore about our sport, they're going to come back and train. But you're right. It's the hardest thing for everyone, including me. I'm taking my coach hat off, including me, to not jump in too early. My last knee surgery, I was on the mats 2 days later.
Yeah. And then the problem is, let's say everything's going great, it's good, and then you push it, you lose that stability, and then you're re-injured, and then you're out for a year.
Boom.
The biggest struggle I find is if ever it could be a setback like right now. People are struggling because, let's be honest, sitting at home alone with a dummy you built or you bought, it's not the same experience, like sweating and fist bumping, and we know that. So you make the best of it, and you can't take away from that. I watch the videos people are posting, they're doing solo workouts, whatever they're doing. Is it going to really change your level? Just don't get fat and lazy, stay in shape, and go back to the mats. If anything, how many times have you actually taken a break, then jumped back on the mats, and your jiu-jitsu is actually better than when you left?
Every time.
It's amazing. And you know why? Because like you're not thinking of it. You're just like, whatever. No expectation, no pressure. You're fresh. You're not injured. Many times, I'm a brown belt. A lot of people know that. Some don't. I've been training since 2004 or 5. That's long, but I don't care about that. It's not about that. I'm an Army guy. So every time I would travel, I'd be gone 9 months of the year. Always training, doing something, and we'd just lace mats out. I'd get the toughest, strongest Army guys, and we'd just roll. They have no technique. They're trying to rip your head off.
Yeah, they're trying to kill you.
And you just, okay, that's my workout. And also the culture back then was more about combatives, like not using the word combatives and just rolling. Mm-hmm. It was actually like you're slapping, punching each other, you're fighting. Now it's to the culture of you're just rolling or you're doing a combative session with gear and doing actual training. But because you're doing stuff, you're always staying active, you're staying in shape, you have the tough mindset. For me, there's two things that happened when I started jiu-jitsu. Is I was used to like smashing through the wall and just Hulk smash like a football player. That's my style, and I'll never change. It was always, you've seen me compete. It's just one way of going. My attributes, my body, I can't change that. I'm not going to put my feet behind my head. I'm not going to be graceful like, like guys like Monkey and that. They just get the ability. And I do believe that's another thing attributed to how do you train someone? Like train with Danaher, he'll take you, he'll show you what you should do, but then he'll show you modifications. And a lot of people, you do it as well, where you take someone and you say, this is not what I'm doing, but what you should do based off your ability, your aggressivity. I got some young Russian kid I was training. He trained under Egor for the national team, and then he came to me for jiu-jitsu, and he won every tournament in Ontario. He won everything, and he's great, but like his style is totally different. It's not as technical. It suits him. And he would beat guys that are way better than him, like 4-stripe white belts. He would destroy them because he was just keeping it simple. I knew what worked for him. No one can match what he was doing. Take down, pass, submit. Or if he's on the bomb, stand back up, take him down. He's got great takedowns. The point is, the idea behind all of it is that mindset that if you don't train for a while, what are you doing while you're not training? Like, are you like it amazes me, or kind of I'm in awe. I watch people transform, which is good. If this made a change in people's lifestyle, their diet, their personal routine, great. But I mean, before this happened, I watch you. You're doing your workouts. There's certain guys they're training. That's a way of life. I was brought up where I watch my son, and he trains every day. Like he's down there doing his chin-ups, his push-ups, sit-ups. He might be doing more selfies than me and like checking his abs out, but like he's training. He's working out all the time. I don't have to tell him because he sees me train. The idea is that if you do that as a culture, I think years ago, like someone like Hoyler Gracie said, like, you don't train for a fight, always be ready for the fight.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not using it as an example as a fighter. Like I'm not, that's not what I'm saying. But that mindset is what you should think. Like you should always be thinking about that fight. It takes me back to that self-defense thing we started off with earlier. We don't do a good enough job of being honest, because what we do is we marry an actual martial art. We marry a system. And it's really hard for 20, 30 years into a system to say, in my system or in my discipline or in my martial art, we are very competent in this, but then when it comes to something else, no. And the idea behind that is very hard to the ego and for personalities. And what I tell people is, let's not label it anything. If you use the word self-defense, don't fucking die. That's it. That's all it is, personal protection. I don't give a shit what you do. Get home to your family safe. Be a good man and stand up and protect, protect from others being bullied or cowards preying on the weak. When you have to stand up instead of filming a fight, get in there and use your skills or your confidence to interject. But really, that should be a priority in our culture, especially how the world's going these days, is teaching young men and women to basically learn about what we're doing is a culture. It's a martial art, but it'd be the same as doing pottery class. It's a martial art. But if you're using that false perception that it's effective under stress in a combat situation or in a fight, you're doing a disjustice to the community. You're not actually helping the guy who joined jiu-jitsu to defend himself. Be honest. Get him to a level where 90% of the fights end up on the ground. Great. He'll be very effective on the ground. But what is he actually doing on the ground? Many schools I've trained with or looked at or been with, we do seminars and consulting. The jiu-jitsu is great. It's unbelievable. World champions. But then when you implement a fight, all of a sudden there's a bunch of people coming out. All his buddies are coming to gang up on you, or there's weapons involved, or the guy's just a strong guy, knows no jiu-jitsu, but he's just a strong, aggressive, violent person. We do Plainclothes Days, which I suggest all the listeners, like once every maybe month, because you'll scare students away. Once a month, you basically dress in plain clothes, what you would wear, and you roll. Just roll. Just roll. Conveniently, your rolling sessions, if you watch them and film them, it's all sweeping, scissor sweep to mount, holding holding your guard, not letting them open your legs. Like, it's simple. You're choking with the person's clothing, maybe their scarf. It's amazing. And I think that's an element that's always going to be looked past, because there's two realms. There's the self-defense ninja who thinks he can beat everyone up in the world, who never trains. He just sits at his computer. And then you have the jiu-jitsu person who's extremely competent and very effective. Then you have the MMA guy who's probably the best person to be prepared for a fight is an MMA guy. The only problem is the two aspects that are the most critical and essential in a fight is he has the fitness, the durability, and the mindset to not quit and just fight. The problem is he's fighting to win. In a fight, you're not necessarily fighting to win. You're fighting to control the fight.
Okay.
So let's say, this is different.
The fight?
This is what I mean. The difference, you're not trying to win the fight, because you and I get in a fight. You take me down.
A true altercation? No, I'll fight to win the fight.
Yeah, but I'll explain. I mean, yes, if you can win, great, but I'm going to explain more to that.
Okay.
Take me down, you mount me, you start punching me, would we agree you're winning?
If I'm on top and punching the bejesus out of you, I'm winning. Yeah,
you're winning.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then all of a sudden, you fall over on your side.
Why would I?
And I'll explain. You fall on your side because you're winning the fight. But that 14-year-old teenager that was attacking a lady, he stabbed you 14 times in your femur or in your back or somewhere, and all of a sudden you're getting tired, you're losing energy, and you fall over. He has no skill. He's just no skill at all. But what we were focused and trained on is take him down, mount him, start smashing him, armbar him, or choke him, whatever. Famous story in Brazil, the jiu-jitsu guy grabs the guy on a bus that has a gun, chokes him, guy shoots him. So it's like sometimes our arena of expertise is focused on one goal, to win that fight, rather than control the fight. So that same scenario, you take me down, you control me, immediately look for ultimate other threats, his buddies, look and check that waistline for weapons, and now you're controlling the fight. You're winning.
I get
it.
I get what you're saying.
Absolutely.
My take on this, all right, so let's talk about particular sport, which is our sport, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I call it more aggressive Jiu-Jitsu or ground Jiu-Jitsu. That's what I call it.
Yes.
I'm tired of having, Brazilian. Okay, it came from Brazil. Modification of it came from Brazil. Good for you, boys. And it's BJJ. What happened over the years, and I'm young in this sport. Both of us are young. We have friends that have been doing this since 90s, right?
Yes.
But we're not too young. We started in 2000s, and I've been fighting since I'm a child, and doing martial arts since I'm a child as well. There are two things on this. BJJ is a sport. It's not martial art as per traditional understanding. Karate is martial art. Judo is martial art. This is where you take the guy by the chest and you say, fuck you, and you toss him on his head so he doesn't get up. Talking about control of a fight? Yeah. Really quickly grab, you have no time to grab a knife. And you toss him on his head, he doesn't get up. That's martial art. Karate, traditional Shotokan sport karate, or you go to Kyokushinkai, is just most ridiculous fucking martial arts sport in the world when they keep punching each other and kicking each other in the ribs. Those are the toughest motherfuckers I've known. That's a true martial art. When that guy, if he knows what he's doing, does a short punch into your ribs, you don't get up.
Yeah.
You don't. You're not going to get up. If that guy, 200 pounds, will truly punch you in the bottom of your ribs, you're not going to get up.
Yeah.
You can have a knife or a gun, doesn't really matter. That's a control of a fight.
Yeah.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a sport. It evolved to be a sport. Okay, positives. Same thing what we talked about. The adversities, puzzle solving situations. Every single day you do full contact, which even if you don't learn weapons, you don't learn real self-defense, you don't learn guns, you don't learn sticks, you don't learn any of that stuff. Any blue belt, one-on-one on the street, without weapons, will take care of the person who doesn't train. Similar size-wise.
Yeah.
Even a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Any blue belt. Any white belt 6 months plus will take care of that.
Yeah.
You know? So that's already bonus. Now we're talking about extreme stuff, which is self-defense. Okay, there is a great Gracie self-defense. Is it real? Well, I ask you this question. Is there real defense against a knife?
Yeah, there is one.
Well,
you know what?
Running. It's called
Exactly.
running. Yeah, see, you're an expert in self-defense, and you just confirmed what I said. And
exactly.
I've learned self-defense. I've done Krav Maga, and I've done few things in my life when my mind was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
If the guy takes a blade out, forget about blade, shaving blade. Like take a shaving blade.
Yeah.
Dude, little touch on your skin and the vein pops and it bleeds. You forget about everything most of the time, unless it's a life and death situation. I've never been in those situations. I don't know what I'm talking about. But
it's context.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
But okay, so Gracie's self-defense. Oh, he grabs you, you grab the arm, you turn, you take the tackle, you grab him to the ground, knee on the belly. Listen, I've been in nightclub securities for years. And Gracie's self-defense truly helped me. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a true self-defense. But I'm fighting a guy who's drunk most of the time, who has no weapon, and if he does, usually it's a bottle, which is easy to deal with for people that have some training, right? And I take care of it. Now, this is the sport, which is great. Again, there's a big bonus of this. Negative part of this, there's a false perception. About real life situation, the guy takes the blade, that sound comes out. I've seen those. I've been in those situations. I know how it feels. I know all of a sudden you forget all the techniques. You know what I mean? No matter how much you train. Some like you or maybe like other people like been in real situations multiple times, they can't handle themselves. But 99.9% of people have never been in those situations, no matter how much you trained. The real blade comes out and the guy's fucking foaming out of his mouth. Yeah. And he wants to fuck you. That start and aggressively going towards you.
Exactly.
Like, what do you do?
Yeah. So here's the thing, and this is so good that you're talking about this, because it's a debate that is going around the world all the time. I don't even make comments because I have a theory. If I comment on Facebook or something, and I can't punch you in the face, or you can't punch me in the face, I don't even start the argument. It's a joke. Like everyone's going to start yelling at each other, and man, let's just have a beer, have a shake of the hand, have a conversation. Here's the thing: is there's the practicality is there's no guarantee. We focus so much on the reverse engineering. We focus on the guy who's an expert. Well, he's a ninja; he could do that. But the problem is we don't focus on the grandma, the grandpa, the guy, the girl, the person who's not as strong to do a technique that is technical and that is going to work and be effective. We focus sometimes in martial arts on proficiency, so we give belts, we have championships, we have this and that. I look at it as the big picture. It's context. The guy, like I said at the beginning, let's say a guy who trains every day in shape, has great cardio, has a really strong mindset, he's aggressive, he has intent. If he's trying to take your life, he's going to achieve that. And the only reason is because, one, you've already screwed up because you don't have situational awareness where you saw that threat arrive. Secondly is he pulls that knife out, you're feeling sorry for your life, you're on your phone, fuck, life sucks. And all of a sudden some guy's like, fuck you, I'm going to take your life. you're not even in that state, that mindset of like, holy shit, I'm gonna fuck him up. You can't fight fire with fire when you're caught by surprise. So 90% of the self-defense we taught or we teach is usually you've already screwed up. So we teach a move, you get choked, you that, but there's no context. It's not in your vehicle in a confined space. So now you have to deal with that, and most humans can't switch like that. The other component is, I use the example, the really good athlete, the jiu-jitsu guy or the MMA guy, he has all the attributes to fuck that guy up. The only problem is that you see the blade, you tunnel vision on that blade. You're like, oh my God, I see the glare. I don't want to die. The adrenaline kicks in. Your body is stiff, and you try to react. Rather than, like you say, run or use a vehicle between you and them, use a chair, use obstacles. In that DVD I made, that's all it was context. It was concepts, not necessarily doing all the techniques, just showing concepts that some people don't think of because they haven't done it. We can talk all day about it, but I know for a fact that the second problem in training or debating something like that is we don't pressure test things. In jiu-jitsu, we do. That's why I believe if you're going to do any martial art, parents ask me, hey, what should my kid do? I put my kid in Taekwondo. Is that good? I'm like, you know what? Absolutely, for one reason. He's doing something. He's active. He's not sitting in a video game. Good. Now, if you ask me, is it effective? 100% not. Not because Taekwondo or karate is not effective. I'll tell you why. Johnny is 6 years old. There's no way that the 8-year-old that comes to punch him in the face, he's going to break into his kata and just knock him out with his orange belt. He's not going to do that. But he can grapple like a little monkey playing the game on Saturdays where he's doing backpack, and he can strangle the 8-year-old to talk to him and de-escalate the violence, and he can do that for sure. So jiu-jitsu has been known. So if that works for a kid, why can't it work for an adult? But the problem is we inflate ourselves with muscles, we inflate ourselves with ego, and we have false perception of what actually works. Keep it simple is what I say, basically. But you got to train everything, and it's not necessarily there is no debate. It's basically like whatever you do, use that and be able to modify to your environment. That's all.
It's very hard to teach self-defense, and you're an expert in it, and I'm good at it. I teach it. My biggest lessons about self-defense is always to make people understand there is no way I can prepare you for a situation. It's impossible. You have to be in that situation. I've been in situations where it was very, very too fucking close. I can count them on my fingers. There weren't like hundreds of them. I'm not a Steven Seagal, you know.
You get a lot of those guys.
But being in the real situation when there is a person that literally has a fucking brass knuckle on his hand and is much bigger than you, and you think, okay, I know all my training, I can box, I can kick him in the leg, I can take him down. As soon as while we're flying to the ground, that guy punches me in the eye with a brass knuckle. I can't prepare you for that. That's self-defense is all about understanding and be self-aware of what's happening over here. Should I engage or should I? Am I pussy? Yeah, I'm a pussy. See, I'm a pussy, but you know what? I go back to my girlfriend. I go back to my boyfriend. I go back to my wife, or son, etc., etc., and I don't engage. Is my ego hurt? Yeah, sure, a little bit. But you know what? I'm sleeping in my bed and not in a hospital without an eye. You know, this is my lesson always to my students is always this. Guys, the best self-defense weapon is running and not getting engaged. Because there's so many people being proven of bullshit, teaching bullshit. And, you know, when I've seen a knife in my life a few times. And I've had a knife in my hand a couple of times. And there is no self-defense against it. Self-defense is this. This is your head. And be smart and be aware of the situation while it's happening. don't get engaged. If you do get engaged, you better be fucking 100% sure that you're ready to be caught, you're ready to be in pain, and your adrenaline better be so fucking powerful that you can defend and control it. You're right about controlling. It's like I'm talking about, and controlling the situation that I'm alive. Hopefully this guy is alive so you don't go to jail, you know.
Yeah.
And if other situations, I'm not talking about war. War is war. I'm not an expert. I don't understand. I don't know what it is. War is war. You shoot, he shoots, you're dead. You're allowed to kill. In a real life street situation, nightclub situation, whatever, you want to go home alive. You don't want to get sued. And you don't want to end up in the hospital without a thumb, without, eye. Your nose is broken to the side over here. Your ear is ripped. My ear's been ripped 2 or 3 times. Literally. Yeah. It's hanging, Yeah. So this is my always lesson about self-defense is this. Yeah, I'll teach you technique. Hypothetic technique. This is what happens when somebody grabs you. You can break a finger. Somebody grabs you by the neck. Absolutely. You can kick him in the balls and all that stuff. Works. It does work. But the extreme part of any self-defense is impossible to teach. Impossible. Yeah. Unless there is a such thing in Krav Maga. You're in Krav Maga too. When you start playing scenarios, multiple people attacking you without telling you what they do. You put a helmet on, you put a headgear, you put protective gear. Even in that situation, you have a protective gear.
Yeah.
Right?
You can't train fighting, and you can't prepare. The only thing you can do, I compare it to this. I even don't use the Krav Maga term anymore for one reason. Combatives, you've heard me say that a lot lately. It means use everything and anything at your disposal, and which includes a lot of it is mindset, is understanding, like using chairs as obstacles, using things just to not engage. If you do engage, you blitz as aggressive as you can, you break contact, you look for all their opponents' weapons, and you're out of there. So there's another concept we talk about is we train like you would do in jiu-jitsu, where the best training is where we do positional training. So you start in half guard, you and I go 5 minutes, we're going to start in half guard, you pass my half guard, or I try to sweep, or vice versa, whatever the drill is, with one grip, no grip, leg is hooked, not hooked. So there's those scenarios that really increase your level in jiu-jitsu. It makes you good in those positions. Well, we do the same thing. The problem in martial arts is exactly what you said. It's artificial. I'm going to take the knife, I'm going to go like this. But that's not realistic. Grab your head, and I'm going to start jabbing you. And that's a little bit more realistic. But secondly is we do positions. So we'll say, how about if we train, because there's no answer. We're just going to expose you to fail often and to die often in training so that you die less in real life, hopefully. So the idea is that I'm going to put you in a vehicle. I'm going to put you in a confined space like a cubicle, or a nurse in a small area with some psycho coming at her with a needle. We're going to put you in these positions, and when we yell the word threat, we're going to go blitz full speed. The problem is 90% of any martial arts, what we do is we'll start the drill where you just punch me or you put the knife out. And then I practice, I do the move. We don't do 2, 3. We don't go full speed. We don't go where like you're running at me, spitting at me, and raging. We just basically start where it's easy. And then it's to my benefit. What was that move again? Can you do it again? We do it in stages. 4th move is turn. It doesn't work. So lately it's like an epiphany, like a beautiful moment in my career is I was thinking like, I can't do full speed with guys. We're going to beat the shit out of each other, hurt each other. So I started looking at how to take someone and go more functional. So we're going to do scenarios where I want you to grab me in that headlock, but literally with that one arm, you can hold me all day. We'll just have a hug. But now what violence you have? You bite me, I bite you. All right. Everyone has their scenarios. No, we're going to train it. So we have a scenario. The guy's in the headlock. When I say threat, you just start smashing me as hard as you can. So as a guy's with gear, he's hitting the guy. He has to get out through that stress. And it's amazing to see when you take, let's say, that wrist grab. I'll share it this week. It's just a big misconception of the wrist grab. A lady's running in the park down a trail. She gets her wrist grab, and then they show her like do this big move to pull out, kick him, and run away. She's going to get fucked up. It doesn't work. And it's not saying it doesn't work. It could work. It's great. It's a beautiful technique. If the guy's a dummy and just sits there, holds your wrist, and waits you to flip him on his head. But reality is people are violent. So as the person's grabbing, we show like basic concepts that they've given us great feedback. Not for me. It has nothing to do with me. It's systems, concepts, and life lessons we're just trying to share. Because really, at the end of the day, you and I will just fight till death. But it's the person who comes in that doesn't have that confidence. They need self-defense. They need training. And we need to take that person and make them the most aggressive version of themselves under stress if needed. But using that training, they have enough confidence to use their words to de-escalate and get out of conflict. That's guy or woman, whoever.
That's a true training. That's de-escalation is one of the most important things you can have. This is I mentioned it before to people and my students and in podcasts, and I've said it. Like one of my favorite things in nightclubs used to be when a tough guy, after 17 fucking shots of tequila, and probably a couple of lines of coke, he's like, I can't stay here. Okay, let's go. You're tough. You want to take it outside? I'm like, yeah, totally. Let's take it outside. Let's do this, man. Let's do this. We're going outside. You walk him out, and you're behind him. You walk him out. You put him on an asphalt. Not literally. You walk him to the street, and he's outside, and he's like, have a good night, sir. And you walk inside. This is the best. This is the best feeling you can have as a bouncer. Well, for me, some guys want to fight. For me, it's like you walk him outside, and he's like, what? I thought we were going to fight. I'm like, that's it. That's my fight. I'm a pussy. I don't want to fight you. I'm going to go inside. And he's like, let me in. I'm like, nope. There are cops right there. Ask them to let you in. And that's it. That's a de-escalation. That's your self-defense. That was for me. I don't know. I've had bouncers, guys that just wanted to fight because most of the time they've never really trained martial arts. They've never really trained full contact shit. Take any MMA guy.
Those are the scariest fights, though, man. Like the two bouncers who are just the big dude, played a bit of football, wrestled in high school, never actually been punched in the face. He's scared to lose, and he's aggressive and strong. I've seen them almost kill like a 150-pound guy who's arguing over like a cover charge, and the bouncer goes on a road rage and just punches the hell out of this kid. It's unbelievable. I worked in that industry as well, and it's unbelievable to see some of the best guys they didn't even look. They were unassuming. They just looked like a normal guy, like, hey, how's it going? The other guy's like jacked to the gills, and they were a liability. They were hard to deal with. We were fighting our own guys to calm them down.
Happened to me as well. One of my favorite, I remember that moment. I'm not going to say who it was, but we had a celebrity in the club. And they were smoking, people were smoking weed, and when it was absolutely illegal, and I'm like, dude, I'm not against you smoking weed. I smoke weed myself. Like, it's like, just you can't do it inside. Like, we can lose a license, we can be fined. It's like, please don't. What are you gonna do? And I'm like, yeah, he's taller, he's bigger than me, and I'm like, please, I'm begging you. Like, I'm being polite. Like, you can't we have to follow the rules. There's certain rules, and there are rules. And you come back to him once, you come back to him twice, and he keeps smoking. I'm like, dude, like, literally, I'm going to walk you out. He's like, how? You don't want to get that. It's literally like in a movie. It's literally like Steven Seagal movie happening over here. And I'm looking, it's like, dude, like, stop. Sir, please. Like, you don't want to get to the next stage. And he's looking, look at my friends, and it's like, and I'm like, I'm on the radio. I'm like, guys, I'm having a situation here. Like, come back me up. So immediately you have similar sized people surrounding me within seconds. And he's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm this and that. The best. Grab him by the balls and walk him up. It happened and because he's so tall, I remember that moment. It's like, I just grabbed his fucking balls, squashed him in my hand, as disgusting as it is. There is no male person in the world who can withstand the squeeze. You can say whatever you want, and the guy crumbles in my hand, let's call it, and I walk him literally, and it's a long walk. I remember that. It was a long walk, good, 100 feet at least, like, between people, among people. And that's it. And I walk him out, I push him to the street, and he's close to be crying. I'm like, dude, I warned him. Like, I warned him, don't do this. I let him back in after. Like, after probably 20 minutes or so, he apologized to me because he was part of the entourage. And,
but he calmed down after that. It's all.
He probably realized in his head, probably weed kicked in as well. It's like, extra sensing kicked in. Is like, oh shit! Like I won't be able to piss normally for next 2 weeks. I've done it too. I remember that training when I was really, really young.
Yeah.
It was, there is a sports sambo, there's combat sambo, and there's self-defense sambo, right? Like real military sambo, right? And there was one of the day training, I'll never forget it in my entire life, when that technique, grab them by the balls and squeeze, and we had to do it to each other to just see how it feels. It doesn't feel nice at all. It hurts so much.
Imagine doing that in Canada. You imagine doing that?
No, you can't. You can't here. But over there, I think I was like 16 or 17, I think.
But this is the thing. You actually just said something that's like, I said at the beginning, unless you're willing, like, basically it comes down to, like, I use an example of a soldier. If you want the soldier to do his job, to protect your I guess your intent, your purpose, and you want to make sure they protect that community, the military guy, the police, the security, whoever's out there helping, you can't expect them to achieve success unless they've already trained to that level. And there's a famous saying where, you're only going to fight to the level of your training, right? Like, so if I train as effective as I can, but there's a scenario, Krav Maga, for example, I kind of shy away from that word for one reason, is that we see it as probably the most well-rounded, like, hey, yeah, cool, awesome. But because it does everything, and ironically, a lot of their gun and knife defense are actually going to get you killed. I've trained with lots of groups, and I look at it, I'm like, man, that's dangerous. I don't want to teach that kid on one seminar. I'm
going to interrupt you for 5 seconds, and you're going to go back to your topic. Like, hence, I never really got involved too deep into those arts. Because, like, I'm looking at it, it's like, I have experience as a teenager, this will not work. Stop teaching this shit. But a lot of it works. Keep going. Sorry.
But what did I say at the beginning? I said, understand the relevance. So why are we so fascinated by things? Well, the Israeli Special Forces train the system. Emmy Lynchfield, he did jiu-jitsu and a bunch of boxing and wrestling, and he created a system and called it Krav Maga. It was actually created so that they could fight, protect their land, and go towards the other. So their system is a lot of it moving forward, advancing. There's some great things to it, but it's not the answer to it. And the idea is that we marry into systems, and, well, this guy does it, and he's like a ninja, so it must be good. But I want to take that kid in the corner who's never fought in his life. He has no athleticism. He's not aggressive. I just want to teach him how to be effective and break contact and not have to fight. And there are times you might have to fight fire with fire. Be crazy. Use all that fear and turn that in aggression just to blitz the guy, to break that moment and then get away. So there are times you have to engage in that combative situation. But a lot of these things, and that's why I don't like to label it on systems, is there's a difference with the fight, and there's a difference with that element or that sport. And the problem is everyone seems to label or compare or argue. I'm like, man, you want to do Tai Chi? Do it, man. Enjoy it. Be the best you can at that. You want to do jiu-jitsu, karate, taekwondo, like whatever you want to do it. Enjoy it. Stop worrying about that, because you're probably never getting a fight in your whole life. And if you had to, because of your environment, you're in a bad area, or it's your job, you're in a risk job, then you might want to consider that. And ironically, the people that should be training, police officers, for example, like, they should be training things that are effective. And jiu-jitsu is one of the best for it, because you're not striking, you're clinching, you're controlling, and you maintain
it's the most effective legal self-defense out there.
Absolutely.
because especially in Canada, where we're very legally, how should I put it? You can,
Accountable.
yes, you can be very, uh, you can be sued for things that you think are doing, you're thinking of. Remember the case a few years ago when I think it was in Alberta when somebody broke into person's house and he shot him and he got sued, and I think
Yeah.
he's serving or served or I'm brutalizing it, but I remember the case when in Canada, like the guy broke into my house, aggressively attacked me. Yeah, I had a gun and I shot him, and he
Yeah.
died. And I got sued for that, for self-defense, for protecting my family, for most likely protecting my life and the life of my wife or my children. And I get sued for that. So this is the situation about jiu-jitsu. Is the best self-defense in the case of I can one on one, no weapons. I grab a guy, I choke him, boom, I put him to sleep. Oh, he's sleeping. I tie his hands behind his back. I'm good. I'm safe. Cops should learn that 100%. And I know so many cops. Like here like I started jiu-jitsu, when I met policemen, and like 5-0 guys are one of my best students. He's a 5-0 as well, and like. And I met him. Self-defense in jiu-jitsu is amazing. In a way, exactly that thing. It's like we teaching people how to handle the situation one-on-one. I have to keep saying it's one-on-one, in the best way possible. I can grab you. I can control your wrist. I can control your hand, arm, whatever. I know where your feet are. I know where your body is. I know how you move towards me. I know the distance. I can grab you, I can turn you around, I can put you on the ground, I can put you on the stomach, and I can control you. I think, no matter what we say about, people cannot be discouraged by our saying there is no real technique against a knife. There are thousands of ways of de-escalating, there are thousands of ways of grabbing the wrist and controlling it. Yes, there are many cases where you cannot defend yourself. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't train for it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't train jiu-jitsu and our Gracie jiu-jitsu on the ground. The beauty about this, we are one-on-one trying to break each other's bones and choke each other every single day. There's almost no... Okay, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, let's put them together. MMA, absolutely. Well, how many train MMA, right? Those are real martial arts, combative martial arts where you test each other every single day. But even kickboxing and boxing and Muay Thai, you can't beat the shit out of each other each and every single day. And even if you do it against a partner you know. And that partner is not trying to kill you. He's trying to knock you off a little bit.
It's totally, you're nailing all the valid points. I've talked with other people in my industry for the combatives, and then also like jiu-jitsu guys. And you're nailing it, and you're open-minded to be able to look at both sides of things. You have experience in all those situations, which allows you to see the big picture. I have a guy up here. He's Gavin Tucker, UFC fighter, amazing guy, little guy, but like tough as nails, and he fights everything. He's a black belt now. Got off Henzel last year. He's a good fighter, and this guy, when you talk to him, he's humble. He doesn't say much. Really tough guy, fit mentally, just gets after it. Training all the time, and we'll spar, we'll do rounds. But this guy, the beauty of it is that he's an example that he knows he's training, but after MMA, he just cares that he's safe on the street. He's able to like defend himself and handle himself, and he has that mindset. He already knows in the back of his mind that he's training for sure right now for a sport, for an element to fight and win those rounds and strategy. But when we go through scenarios, or if he knows that if I was training with a blade right now, or we're doing a clinch, he's always aware that exists. What I'm getting at is that he's one of the guys that if I was to train in a scenario, he'd be so easy to transfer that knowledge because he already accepts that reality. He's a very, very, very smart guy. So now when you look at other people that I've trained with, they're extremely competent in that skill set. And well, I'm just using it as tip of the spear of these guys are training every day. They're conditioned. They're tough. They know good grappling, good jiu-jitsu. You notice like when you do no-gi and gi, you can rip out of submissions a lot easier. You can kind of brawl. The guy who's less technical can wrestle you. He can kind of out hustle. And normally in jiu-jitsu, if anyone's going to ask me what's my favorite, I love jiu-jitsu. You know that we love it. But I'm also very realistic, and I challenge everyone in the community and all of us. When you're feeling comfortable in the guard, feeling comfortable because you're just rolling. We're not slapping each other in the face. We're not going intensive MMA rounds. Who wants to do that? You're going to hurt yourself. It won't last. That's why the careers are short. But because we're not doing that, now you expect your jiu-jitsu to be strong under pressure. So I asked the instructors, and I guarantee you and Marco push your guys. I've seen it to keep like a high level. But if the guys in the club aren't competitors, how do we guarantee the kid that's just going there 2-3 nights a week is not just getting smashed by a competitor or someone that's fitter or better? We want to make sure we're bringing them up to speed where we're testing them physically and mentally, where they're like, that's a fight for their life. Like the 40-year-old guy's like, holy shit, I lost 40 pounds. Jiu-jitsu is the toughest thing I ever did in my life. But he's also understanding that he can fight through that pressure. But there's a purpose for it at the end of the day. Yes, there's the sport, but in each club, maybe 10% compete. And the majority, yeah, maybe. And the majority of the guys, we're training them. And it's funny because it is a sport and it has an effectiveness, that gentle art. But most people that join are for either to get in shape and self-defense, which is, as long as people know that, then that's it. It's so easy to do.
I've said it many times, and I've spoken to Marco, and I've spoken like Justin Brockman as a prime example. He's a former true MMA guy, one of the OGs, right? And
yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, the greatest dude. And Monkey, like our circle of friends, or circle of the people that I know around me, the true fighters. Again, Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is still one of the most fun things we do in martial arts. Why? Because we can continuously do it. You can't do MMA every single day for years and years and years, what we do with Jiu-Jitsu. Why? Well, because one punch is this, one punch is that, another punch and a kick. But with Jiu-Jitsu, we still combat each other. We still fight each other, and we still choke each other. We still get this adrenaline going, and this thing, that it's pressure amazing. And the puzzle solving, and this like grind.
You know what's amazing is you just nailed it on the head. I compared a little bit like when we train our snipers, they do everything and rehearse everything. It's right till the moment of actually taking the shot and taking a live shot, a real shot. So even in practice, they stalk, they get to the area undetected, they do their math, their calculations, the spotter checks the wind, everything, and he takes that shot. And he whether he's practicing hitting a gong or he's hitting something real, like the difference is he's done everything like it's real. Mm-hmm. Now in jiu-jitsu, you're doing everything like it's real. You're doing everything you would do under stress. If someone is basically applying that in a tournament or under stress in a fight, they're going to basically simulate that rehearsal or that practice every night they train with their friend. So it's good.
It's good. All that stuff is good. It's huge benefit from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Gigantic benefit training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I truly think it's the best martial art to do continuously over years and years and years. But I always say, do a little bit more others. Do striking. Because true martial artist is not pure Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what we know as these days. If you talk to Gracie's, Hickson and those guys, it's not, it's self-defense, it's fighting, it's this. We don't do this anymore. Brazilian
No.
Jiu-Jitsu is a sport on the ground. We grapple. Yes, we fight each and every single day. Yes, it's a grind. Yes, it's this and that. Hey, listen, put me in a guard right now. You're the best guard player in the world. Have you experienced big fucking knuckle in your nose from this distance like this of 220-pound person who's fit?
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced, how's your guard now, motherfucker? You know? And this is what cannot be taught. It has to be experienced. So I always say, guys, it's a sport. Let's do this. It teaches you this teaches you discipline. It teaches you all sorts of, it's cardio, it's physicality, it's manhood over there. It's like everything is there. But never forget what true fight is. Never forget what true scenario can happen. And never, oh, you put me in triangle. Really? You're 150-pound person in the jiu-jitsu, in the gi? Yeah. I have to do IBJJF rules, and I cannot pick you up and walk you into the wall with your head into the cement wall. Guess what? In the real situation, this is exactly what I'll do. You put me in a triangle, I'll try to open your knee a little bit so I can breathe. I'm going to pick you up. If there's an asphalt, I'm going to dump you right over there. And I'm going to crack your head open. Oh, though it's grass. Guess what? There is a couple of sticks over there, or a couple of rocks laying around. You know, I always say, remind your students, remind people, especially people that want to learn how to fight. Yeah. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not fighting. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is grappling. It's a sport. Teaches you a lot of stuff. And yes, like I said before, any blue belt will take care of anybody who doesn't train any martial art in a real situation. No problem. Even if you're a football player or a rugby player, on the ground, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. You're not gonna stand a chance against similar size people, similar physicality. Blue belt will kick your ass. Will kick your ass legally, safely. Everything's fine. He's going to take your arm and he's going to break it in half. You're not going to fight with a broken elbow, because you don't know how it felt. You know, it's back to the situation of you need to experience of real pain. You know how this finger feels when it points this way, that way? Yeah. Well, you don't. I do. I know how it feels. And guess what? I'm going to put it back and I'm going to keep punching you. But in a real situation, if you don't experience that, you're going to see your finger sticking this out, you're going to freak out. You're going to freak out. You're going to get scared. You're going to do whatever you're going to do. So, martial arts we teach, yes, it's good, but reality cannot be forgotten. And this is, you know, you did a DVD, right? Like,
I went down to the BJJ Fanatics group. They a couple of the guys that called me up to come down and do self-defense, and they have a site also. It's called Effective Self-Defense. The issue is they're taking in the jiu-jitsu community guys to teach self-defense, and this is great. There's some good content. And a lot of it is good, and then they'll take combatives guys. I think the advantage of seeing that stuff is that diversity is what's going to allow people to engage with having effective skills. If you basically have one specialty, that's your specialty. That's it. And you know, I see it a lot when I go and do these seminars. This DVD was just like kind of like an intro, like here's a lot of misconceptions, like the wrist grab choke when you use it, and we explain that stuff. People, lots of huge feedback. They've loved it because I keep it simple, and they can tell, like, you know, like I'm not trying to take techniques we've learned for 100 years that you'll do, let's say, a choke in the middle of a room and the guy does a manipulation. I show why you don't need to do that. I show how to keep it simple, and people love it, man. Like, and it's not for me. It's more if I can help people that have those questions. They're getting disappointed and frustrated doing all kinds of training martial arts. They're not getting those answers. And this was just one chapter. You don't need to train this every day. Keep training your jiu-jitsu. You see a little glimpse of information. You're like, oh, wow, I knew that, but I didn't really think of that. Or, oh, wow, he's using a tool to basically break contact or to disengage. It's just concepts. And basically from there, we get into depth where we're going to go on the ground with a blade and a knife for some of the military or the police officers. How do you retain your weapon? We just demystify things that are being taught in the industry.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to see this stuff.
I'll send you. It's good. I mean, for me, it's one project at a time. And yeah, I'm really happy. Like lately, it's like the light bulb went off. I'm 45. I've done this my whole life, like you, train, and you meet great people. And the biggest thing is just trying to advance forward and really help other people. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna have a bad day, you're gonna need help, and you're gonna be in trouble. So we often fight our own battles, in our own life, in our little bubble alone, or we're in a street fight, we're alone. We always often forget, that there's other people, make friends. Like if I'm standing out in public, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm not like, hey, how's it going to everyone? But if I'm walking, I'm crossing a person, I'm like, hey, man, how's it going? Like I went from like getting in a full fight till death, or I make friends with the guy. Like it's your choice. But often in our own lives, we don't reach out to others. We battle all these stresses. Like right now, we talked at the beginning of this session how everyone deals with stress differently and everyone copes with things differently. But really, at the end of the day, you see me sometimes always put that hashtag, together we shall conquer. If people could understand what that truly means, I learned that with my brotherhood in the military and friends. But like having that bond like we have in jiu-jitsu in our community where there's some really good people, kind of focusing on that strength, that positive energy, because we could easily focus on that. There's a lot of BS in our community. I get it. But if we focus on the positivity, surround ourselves with like-minded people, then the train keeps moving forward and we drag everyone with us and we're moving and evolving.
100%,
And
100%. How
absolutely.
many jumps do you have?
Thousands. I started static line, which is the round shoot. You can't really steer much, and you hammer hard.
Those are horrible.
Yeah,
I've done that one.
It's like the blue belt, and then you get to relax a bit. But it's actually ironically, my friend I told you he's paralyzed. It was actually through a free fall canopy, ram air canopy. Oh, so when you watch in the movies, people tippy toe, they land, they flare, they put the brakes on. We jump a large parachute for military because we carry gear. So it's a 300 square foot parachute, so we can carry the load. We come in, we land. It's usually pretty responsive.
The blade, you're talking about round or?
Basically the canopy above your head, the parachute. It has, let's say, 9 cells or 7 cells, whatever it has. And it fills with air, a ram air canopy.
Military parachutes are still round, or they're more sports style, rectangular ones?
So there's two systems in our military. In most militaries, there's round parachute that you just basically hit hard and fast. You got to keep everything tight.
I can't avoid the tree. Let's land in the tree.
Exactly. That one's for mass drops, for, let's say, lots of troops at a low altitude, 1,500 feet, and everyone just lands. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's the average, 1,250 feet to 1,500 feet. It's usually 1,250.
What's the speed before you land at the ground?
You're falling about 14 feet per second, so it's pretty hard.
All right.
And you're hammering in and depending on the wind, if you got a good wind. So they teach you how to land. You'll see guys in Canada with red wings, we call them cherry jumpers, where they did 5 jumps to get their qualification. They may never jump ever again. And then if the guy is crazy enough, he goes into a operational unit where he jumps with the unit, an airborne unit, and he'll get his white wings where he'll jump with equipment, he'll jump on exercise, he'll do his missions with that. And then free fall, it's military free fall parachutist. That guy, he basically has 2 capabilities. Before you get to that, you can jump static line square, which is the same parachute, but it's configured the same way as you just did, where the rope pulls the parachute open and you go out. Well, the difference is static line square, they call it, is you can steer like a free fall canopy once it's open. It's the same thing. And you face into the wind, you flare, and the parachute basically goes like this. The wind hits it and it slows down, and the guy tippy toes. But if you come with the wind, or when you judge your area you're going to land in and you pull on the front risers and you try to aggressively come into that area, and then you misjudge it and you flare. It's like nothing works. You're going to hammer in. So in free fall, that's where you have two elements. You can do hey-ho, high altitude, high opening. You can do halo, high altitude, low opening. You can do different variations in Canada.
On your own, right?
Yeah, and you pull that out like a civilian skydiver. But the difference is the parachute is a military chute. It's bigger, so it can hold the weight. We're not worried about swooping in. We're just trying to get to an area precise.
So, okay, so what's better technology-wise, military or civilian?
Well, here's the thing: is the civilians don't have as much safety protocol. They're very safe, but I've jumped civilian and military, and it's a sport. So because there's more of the sportive aspect or limited, let's say, exposure, someone just does a jump, a tandem jump, they get their certificate, they're like, hey, I jumped out of a plane, great. Then there's people who take it very seriously, yeah, and then they jump every weekend and they compete for precision, maybe swoop competition, maybe they do canopy, whatever they do. And that tends to have lots of injuries at times with experienced jumpers, even because their safety protocol is more like less strict. The military is a little bit more strict with their checks, all their checks. I was a jump master, so I would check the equipment and then I would throw them out of the plane and make sure that whole procedure is much safer in the military. Our equipment is checked 3,000 times and then we do our drills and the protocol. But the mission sets are much more dangerous. You're jumping at night. I jumped in the Atlantic Ocean for training, like to link up with a submarine with my crew. So that might be a little bit different than jumping in flip-flops on a Saturday in Toronto, wherever, right?
Listen, why do they still use this round freaking thing when you do this?
Well, like I said at the beginning, should they do a mass invasion, they
Even
would have
then,
a low.
Like why?
Well, in the more elite groups, I say the more elite. Let's say you have a more specific role, like snipers in a team of 4 to 8 guys, or pathfinders, or maybe special operations. They're going to insert those guys discreetly, and they're going to strategically land where they go. Right. They sneak into an area and they go on. With the mass troops, they're going to do the same thing, but it's going to be like 1,000 paratroopers on a drop zone in a farmer's field in like seconds, 45 seconds. They've hit the ground, they have all their gear, and they start fighting. So you basically have a lot of strategic advantages. So the other parachute is
45 seconds from plane to the ground and ready to go, right?
Depending on how low they go, right? It could be a minute and a half.
I understand. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's definitely not easy on the body, that's for sure. And then you can jump tandem military where you have containers on your stomach, 500-pound containers hanging from you with your team's gear. And basically that's the ultimate. So you're jumping, you're not just free falling, you're jumping like you're doing tandem, but you have a tethered strap on your stomach and you have a 500-pound container that's about like 6 feet long. A little bit longer, and in that you have, let's say, your gear for your group. So once you land, you could have toboggans, you could have all kinds of gear.
So what do you do with that container closer to the ground?
It basically you actually open your parachute and you're flying, you're steering this thing. It hits the ground, and then it drags you everywhere as you try to flare to land. Jesus, yeah, it's pretty beautiful.
What's the awesome. Highest jump you did?
Basically, when you do the hey-ho, you can jump up to 36,000 feet. So we did a couple of those in trials. I was lucky to be on a trials team where we did a lot of that training. It was awesome. And now in Canada, they've always had that rule where above 10,000 feet, the Hercules has to use oxygen. So what we were doing is hiring civilian aircrafts to go a little bit higher, like 15,000 without having to use oxygen. That gets a little, you push it. And that's the average. I mean, all the guys right now jumping, the guys I talked about, they're awesome. And it's evolved a lot. Right now what we do is we throw the guys in a wind tunnel, a civilian wind tunnel. So I was in California in Paris Valley. They go everywhere now, but you go to a wind tunnel and you practice with your gear on in the wind tunnel. So the students are so good at flying. When we take them out for their first jump out of an actual aircraft, they're already like superstars, flying really good. So we throw gear on them that scares them a bit, but they're already good enough at skydiving that we can help them control that. That's just a fear thing. I mean, it's dark, you can't see, it's raining, whatever. But normally we try to train them in a safe environment. Everything is perfect, nice skies, everything's beautiful. But eventually you get some more challenging tasks, right? Like jumping in smaller areas, whatever.
Have you done base jumping?
No, I officially didn't.
Yeah.
So you can do all kinds of stuff, and it's awesome. Yeah, it's the reason I still do some austere things is it keeps you kind of alive. I don't know.
Hey, listen. What about? Here's my question to you from today. The assault rifles ban.
Yeah, I'm gonna be posting a video on that just because it gets complex. It sums up as this: is regardless of the type of weapon class and calibers and all that. I know a lot about that. Basically, it comes down to this in our nation, in Canada. The unfortunate reality is it's absolutely regardless of people's opinion. I don't get into politics. I hate that stuff. Is that if you use a weapon for hunting, for safety, for sport, it's a tool, like using a hammer. There's more deaths like with knives, people grabbing knives and stabbing each other in domestic situations. I don't like today how they were referring to this recent thing in Nova Scotia where the weapons he had was like a rifle and some pistols. He didn't even have an assault rifle. So they kind of missed the mark on a lot of things. They went on a tangent talking about domestic violence and women and all the domestic cases where people are getting murdered if they're speaking women. It hasn't been assault rifles. No one's coming up with an assault rifle, open up on people. It's happened a few times. But anyways, my point is this, is that if you arm a society, the society is a little bit more polite. If you enable professionals, veterans like myself, or ex-military, ex-security, ex-police officers to be armed, even furthermore, concealed carry with pistol, we have the training, we have the knowledge. Now, when that individual who is a coward that goes around on his rampage because he didn't have enough hugs or whatever, and he just decides to go apeshit, he thinks, wait a second, at any moment, I better do this well and right because someone can end me fast. A good guy is ready to fight evil forever. And the thing I have is it's a misconception of these legal gun owners are actually good dudes. They're good guys like us. We have these weapons, we use them, we train people. And why are we training like this in a nice, peaceful country? Is when shit hits the fan, you can't take a perishable skill and expect to be effective. It's a 300-meter effective range, but the average person, I could stand on a range 100 meters away, you can't hit me. It's just the issue I have is that there's a lot of decisions being made that aren't necessarily founded or educated, and we're too scared to be honest. That would you rather have assets in the community, do very strict checks, do everything, the psych backgrounds, make sure the right people. Yeah, that's true. You can always have a bad apple, but do that. The guy can drunk drive and kill someone. He can have a knife and stab someone. But make sure you have your due diligence. But if you arm citizens that are assets in a community, it's happening a lot down in the States where active shooters are getting stopped right in their place, because trained professionals are there during that. So rather than 22 people dying, maybe less. But we can't have those conversations because we're not in that culture in Canada. People aren't ready to think that way. And I believe what's going to happen is as soon as you disarm law-abiding citizens, because the firearms are coming up next, now what happens is no matter what, the criminals have them. The criminals don't have the fear. They're like, man, I can just break and enter in your home, rob anyone. I can do whatever I want. It's the wild, wild west. And this is terrible. because what is the incentive for a law-abiding citizen to follow the rules? You're following the rules the whole time, and then now you're saying that, we're going to not necessarily punish, but you're going to basically disarm potential assets in your community, period. And police officers, like I always tell people, let professionals do their job. So if something happens, like this active shoot, people are like, hey, what do I do? Stay in your house, report anything you see, have a list of things you can do to help and assist, but just relax, leave it. It's not your job. Let them do their job. I'm on a group where I help these guys do their job, and often we'll do training like field craft tracking. So if it gets really bad and they need help from military guys or ex-military for that element, for sure we step up to the plate. And now imagine a scenario like that where I'm not allowed to carry, or I'm not allowed to use something to protect myself or others in the community. It can get bad very quickly, and that's just one person has mental health or he's crazy. That's one person. If you have organized crime, 4, 5, 6, a team of 15, they can wreak havoc in our country. And if we don't address those issues, I think it's going to go downhill very quickly, unfortunately.
Well, the whole thing, it's been coming up, right? Because it's been mentioned, Trudeau mentioned it, a couple of weeks ago or something like this, and then it's been in the news a few times. The whole thing about banning, this is what drives me nuts. Assault rifles. I'm like, who the fuck has assault rifle? And what is? I don't have AK-47 in my over here. I don't have AR-15s. How many Canadians you really if you really think about it? How many of us have true assault rifle, automatic assault rifle?
Yeah. It's blown out of proportion.
This is what I'm saying. It's why are you banning this? You're absolutely right. I actually agree with you, because the next step is going to be firearms. People that have a magazine in this safe, the gun is in another room, and when I go to my range, it has to be particular route that is police knows about it, and if I get stopped, if I'm on a different street, I get stripped off the license. People that have guns in Canada, we already have so many regulations, it's not even funny. And I'm talking about handguns, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, we have hunting guns. What's the difference between a hunting gun, rifle, shotgun, double barrel, or freaking crossbow, which is completely legal, anybody can buy it, which shoots through freaking deer it's nothing, What's the difference between that and assault rifle? Okay, assault rifle can shoot 15 rounds in 3 seconds. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Well, try hitting anything in those 3 seconds if you don't have training, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I have a 10 times bigger chance having my double freaking barrel, put a 12 gauge, big game freaking shells in it, and I'm going to hit another 5 people. It's the same fucking thing. It's even worse probably. But my point is, again, politics, fine. And you know what you said, don't like about politics? It is very political, no matter what we say. It is a political conversation here. But about safety of people and banning this stuff, to me, it's just a facade of, okay, I did something right, but we're not talking about, mental problems of people. We're not talking about, let's ban guns. This guy went and killed everyone. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a like I said, it's a very complex conversation, because I'll be honest, in the ideal world, no one would have guns, and the militaries would fight each other, and that's it. You wouldn't have to there's wild conservation with wildlife, so that's why we hunt. There's reasons for things. There's the sportive aspect. Then there's also that skill set, a perishable skill set, that people that have those skill sets in that profession can maintain that level of proficiency should they use that to defend themselves or others, or if they're part of an organization. Now, a civilian, like a guy that's just at their hunting range, he's super gung-ho, never joined the army, never was in the police, and he's like, I want to have all the AR-15s and shoot everything up. Like, that's a concern. That's a huge concern. The biggest thing I look at is a pistol has almost more danger for one reason is assault rifle, you have to have that specific intent, the caliber you use, and the type of ammunition, and it's a semi-automatic weapon. You can actually use that at a violent rate for sure. You can also hide with a hunting rifle or a 308 like mine, sniper rifle, and you can do a lot of damage in a concealed area and create havoc. That doesn't mean that everyone who owns a hunting rifle should take
that's
back.
Exactly. That's the point of many people, that gun-loving people, and not only gun-loving, gun-responsible people,
abiding citizens.
They're trying to make that point.
And the other thing is criminals will do crime no matter what.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. Yeah, it's.
In England, they disarmed the police officers, and all they had was billy bats for a while, and they didn't have like handguns. Like, it was crazy. So there's an increase in stabbings. If you've ever been there, like most of my live scenarios and situations were actually the crazy Brits, like fighting in bars, and them with knives and blades everywhere you go. They got like machetes and they're trying to hack your head off. Like, it's crazy. But everywhere you go in the world, I look at it as a tool. And if you teach people how to be responsible, and it's just a tool in an industry or in a sector, I guess. There's private security and contracting. There's individuals who aren't in the military anymore, but they do work. Like, you have to be armed. Let's say concealed carry, RCMP. They're the only ones in CSIS that do that in Canada. But there are groups that are starting to fight for those licenses to do like the human trafficking stuff, and certain areas they go in, like drugs and gangs, they hire some locals. It gets hard because policing is short on numbers and people, so they're hiring specialists and assets to add to the community. And there's going to be a lot of red tape, and unfortunately, it's not going to get better. It's going to get a little bit more regulated and strict. And the biggest point of all this conversation today that everyone's having is this. It was a knee-jerk reaction on a political gain and agenda. Why didn't they decide that 3 weeks ago or a month ago? Mm-hmm. The fact that they're using this, well, unfortunately, there's people that lost their lives to a tragic event, didn't expect that violence. It comes back to a few of those factors. Me, I live my life every day safe. I do the right thing. I protect people. I train people, police officers, military in the community, civilians. There's no way anyone's coming to me to get me. Like, I'm prepared, I'm trained, and I think like that. That doesn't make me a psychopath, doesn't make me crazy. It makes me understand situational awareness because I'm not naive. I live in Canada, but I've seen a lot of things. I don't live on the edge, hyper vigilant, but I know what happens. And I refuse to let my guard down. That means that I make sure I have all those things. You take guns for sure. Then we increase the security. We increase our protection, like our surveillance. We increase how you build fences in your yard and gates at the front entrance, whatever. Yeah. It's the world we live in, unfortunately.
You're adapt. You need to adapt. No matter what happens, you have to adapt. It's like we adapted to remote training these days, with COVID-19, right? It's the worst thing you can. I've said it so many times, and it's a huge belief of mine. The easiest thing to be is to be a loser in life. That's the easiest thing to do. It's the easiest thing to relax and do nothing. And make excuses. And to be a loser, it's so fucking easy. It's like, oh my god, I need this. No, I can't. And the same thing, like. Adapt. You need to adapt to whatever situation happens. I don't know. I live my life. I live through my life doing those things. I would adapt, and it doesn't mean I would put somebody in jeopardy. It doesn't mean that I would risk somebody to be in a worse situation than me. Like, it doesn't mean that I betray somebody.
Man, you guys have a really good. Well, I've followed. I grew up in Ottawa and that, and then I got to meet a lot of you guys through the community and in the Toronto area through the tournaments and our clubs. And I think it's amazing. Like you guys have built there's been a huge momentum, a huge shift. I don't really, I understand that some people used to train with each other. Now they have their own thing. Like that happens in every martial art. But what I like seeing is there's been a really good vibe, like
it's happening.
good energy, and I encourage everyone to keep that going. And I mean, it's something as simple we tell our students, like you're walking down the street, just say hi to someone. Like this doesn't make you crazy, doesn't make you like overly social. Like just look up once in a while. We're sitting on our phones with our heads down, feeling sorry for ourselves. Just like you got nothing to lose. Like just I think if you can surround yourself with good people, then together we do a lot more, a lot easier and better, and we evolve. And it's good to see. I mean, you're doing this to reach out to people, entertain people, the wheels turning, talk about things that we think of, and I mean, it's awesome, man. It's good. It's great to hear that you're doing that. It's also good to see others are engaging with that. Like you mentioned a few of those names, man. Like I owe Monkey. I owe him a day in the range. Like he's got some guns. He wants me to show him some long range stuff. Like every time I see him, he's like, we talk for jiu-jitsu for 2 seconds, then it's like 30 minutes of like, what should we do for the optics
Monkey,
and all that?
Yeah, he has few guns.
Yeah. He's a good dude, man. I'll be up there to help in the future for sure.
Monkey, he probably gave up on inviting me to hunt to Sudbury. He's like, come over. I'm like, I'm coming. It's like
a little far, man. I've been there with that Nomad when we went there. I got one year. I still wear that gi. It's one of my favorite gis, man.
That's right.
Remember the Nomad one you made for that?
For Pat,
John hosted.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, that's cool.
Hey, you're with Pat right now, right?
What's that?
You're with Pat Cooligan right now, aren't you?
Well, I basically started my jiu-jitsu with him, and then I moved. So because I basically go straight under Henzo now.
Right, you're straight under Henzo now.
With the Titans crew, and I have Pete Martel and Kevin Taylor. They're the main OGs out here, and basically they're the reason why everyone out here has got, like, there's a guy actually. There's 2 brothers, the Hollets. They're out in Calgary running clubs, and Jake McKenzie, a Canadian guy, he was just up the road in Truro, and he's a big influence in the community. And we see him probably twice a year. He comes back home to visit family, so we do some training with him, and they all have a really good network. So it's run a little bit differently than what we're used to. Let's say in Ottawa, it was like all the Hensel Gracie guys. Like in Ontario, you see there was I guess less cross training, or there was different ways they ran it. Here it is different. It's because there's not much jiu-jitsu out here. It's grown a lot since. So there's a lot of that relationship, kind of like you guys do in Toronto, where everyone helps each other. We train with each other. There's open mats. I train with TJ Grant, UFC fighter. Saturdays we do open mats at his club. I train all the time with Gavin, who's our UFC guy at Titans, and then all the jiu-jitsu guys, man. And a given night, I got like the lightest guy is my son. He's like maybe 160 pounds, blue belt, and everyone else is like brown and black belts. He's getting awesome, man. Like he's got like 200-pound brown and black belts, and there's like at least 4 or 5 black belts every night. Bunch of big 220 brown belts. It's awesome. That's cool. It's been a good shift of gears, to be honest. And Cameron, you saw, he comes up once in a while. We do some training. But my goal is to travel, like to actually head back. Probably the fall. I help out with some teams up there, some military and police guys. So head up to Toronto, do a competition, or just see the guys, run a seminar, do some training.
Good.
Yeah, it'll be
good. You were in Halifax itself, right?
Yeah. I had a club in Kingston. I had probably like 150 students in a short amount of time, 3 years. We had the Krav Maga program. We had some kickboxing. We had some self-defense programs, fitness programs, and then the jiu-jitsu. And it exploded, and it was great. And then with the military, what they do is they give you one last posting. Like when you retire the military, to give you one last, I guess, one choice. You could pick Hawaii, wherever you want in the world will move you. You asked hosting. And our family was all out on the East Coast, and our oldest son is already out here. Just had a kid, so I'm grandpapa.
Your
So
grandpa, I saw it on Facebook. I'm like, holy
crazy,
shit, grandfather. 45 years old grandfather.
I'm gonna start a grandpa fight club, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Okay, I'll be there.
Yeah. It's been good, man. To be honest, like man, it's just we've been talking about this. It's just you go through changes and chapters. I'm part of a group, Spartan Wellness. They sponsor me for some of the jiu-jitsu, and the biggest thing we talk about is a lot of veterans get out of the military, and you'll see them like they go to shit, they get fat, out of shape, they hate the world, they hate the government, everyone owes them something, they got the hair all over the place. It's embarrassing, to be honest. And I call my friends out sometimes, man, like shape up, like, you know, use everything you did. If you were that good of a soldier, like use those lessons and just work on chapter 2, find something to do, but don't go to shit. And it's been kind of a project on the side where we're just trying to help vets. And you know what, to be honest, jiu-jitsu. We're just like, just show up here, I'll meet you here. And wherever they live in the country, we send them to jiu-jitsu.
That's good, man.
It's therapy for them.
That's the thing. We talked about so much about self-defense and the effectiveness of some of it. We're still coming back to jiu-jitsu. It's just
community.
It's a community. It's true camaraderie without the most extreme. And most extreme for me is military in some hot spots. You know, that's the most extreme spot. The most extreme thing. And MMA and jiu-jitsu closest to that without being fucking killed or feeling you're in true danger.
Yeah.
Listen, dude, we're like 2 hours, 20 minutes.
That's crazy, bro. It was nice, man.
I looked a couple of times and I was like, oh, hour and a half. Okay, cool. Oh, shit, 2 hours. Anyway, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so obviously on the social media, you can check out at Unique Skills on Instagram. Just ask and we'll let you follow us. I think we have it set as private right now. And then Facebook itself, Unique Skills Training and Consulting. We do survival training, navigation training, some team building, leadership courses, and obviously the self-defense package, which has all those things we talked about earlier.
And your DVD is BJJ Fanatics? No, not BJJ Fanatics.
Yeah, I think they named. If you just go on the Effective Self-Defense website, they're in partnership with BJJ Fanatics. You'll find it. It's online. I'll share it on our social media. You can find it there. And yeah, man, like it's something we're working on, and we're just going to move forward and try to help. And we're always learning. I'm always a student of the arts and meet new people, train new things, and keep moving forward.
All right, brother. All right.
Yeah,
this is good. That's been good, man. We'll do it.
Yeah,
we'll do it again.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, man.
My pleasure. It's been fun.
All
right, brother. Us.